as his leading actor. We could say that the majority of his films were shot in Monument Valley. We could say that, he really liked, huge master shots to, capture the environment. All of these little similarities that you can start finding in all of John Ford's movies, you start then collecting into one banner and say, okay, this is a John Ford film. These are the characteristics he's known for. Blah, we're calling it an auteur theory. It is a John Ford film. Or it's an Alfred Hitchcock movie. He is going to control our view. We are only going to be able to see what it is that he wants us to look at. There's invariably going to be an element of suspense. There's going to be all these things. So these trademarks are the basis of this auteur theory. Like I say, we take it for granted now. But in the 1950s, this was a whole new way to look at movies. And really, I think, to elevate it more from just populist escapist entertainment to more of an art form. I mean, it really starts to say that there is one hand that's guiding the vision, and I think, really conferring the status of an artist now onto a filmmaker. When we look at this French New Wave movement, the films that are usually ascribed as being the forerunners of it, there's a work by Claude Chabrol known as Le Beau Serge. It's from 1958. But really the two films that most people attribute to starting this New Wave movement would be the film that we're seeing this afternoon, The 400 Blows by Francois Truffaut from 1959. And another movie that would be released the next year in 1960, that would be Jean-Luc Godard's first film, Breathless, Au bout du souffle. I don't know if you've seen that very popular film. I really prefer Godard's other work, but needless to say. How does this movement fit in with the other movements that we've seen? Well, you can definitely trace it back to Italian neorealism. That movement that came out, we saw the example in Bicycle Thieves. Again, destroyed infrastructure after the war. You've got these artists wanting to make movies, but they don't have access to money to allow them, lavish sets or expensive actors. So what do? They take it to the streets, right? They can't afford lights, they use the sun. Can't afford name actors? Fine, let's find local people. Adds more of a sense of authenticity and realism to the work. These elements would all find themselves coming into play in the French New Wave movement. But I want to say that beyond that too, there is also this analytical tradition that's coming out of the Cahiers du Cinéma. There is, a looking at craft, a looking at auteurship. And I must say, there is a sense of fun and a sense of life and revitalization that comes into the medium. And I think you're going to feel that today in the 400 Blows. Yes, it may start off looking like a typical black and white movie from the 1950s, but I think you're going to feel that sense of fun which pervades it. They're going to start, not so much in this movie, you're going to see some jump cuts. Godard is especially going to be known for that. Instead of giving us one long continuous take of a couple talking, he's going to cut it up so that we just hear, like the important sentences. Or if they're walking down the street, they may suddenly jump forward quite a few feet. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. So, like I say, it is kind of a revitalization in a way. They found that the old existing French cinema after the war, they had fallen back on their old, adaptations of classic French literary things, or going back to their rich tradition of the theater. And these new filmmakers thought, this is so boring. It's so out of touch, with the demands of this contemporary society. We've got to breathe new life into film, if you will. You would start having anti-heroes being introduced. Again, no longer characters clear-cut, black and white, good and evil. They are now people just like you and me with flaws that make the decision to do the right thing or to not do the right thing. It's here where you would start having, believe it or not, something that is so common these days in film school, directors using shopping carts for dolly shots. I noticed one yesterday in front of the film center at SFUAD. I said, oh, somebody was doing a dolly shot over the weekend, because there was a nice little Smith's shopping cart there. It's like, why the hell else would this be in front of a film school?
They're kind of noisy though, right?
Sorry?
They're kind of noisy.
They are noisy. They're kind of bumpy as all, It's not a smooth shot, but, I guess it gives you a traveling shot in a way.
That's why you don't record from the camera.
Yeah, please have a different mic or just do it, without sound. So again, this fresh look, rapid change of scenes, jump cuts, improvised dialogue. These are going to be some of the new innovations that are going to come about with this new wave movement. And it would definitely have an effect on American cinema as well. A little bit about Francois Truffaut, our particular filmmaker this afternoon. As I mentioned, he is one of the founders of the French New Wave movement. He was born in Paris in 1932. He would see his first film when he was only 8 years old. It would be Abel Gance's Paradise Lost, based on Milton's classic. It was then, by his own confession, that his obsession with cinema would begin. He would be expelled from several schools in his youth, and I think that's really going to be reflected in today's movie. And at the age of 14, Truffaut decided that he was going to become self-taught. He stopped going to school and he gave himself his own academic goal, which was to watch 3 movies a day and read 3 books a week. If this sounds familiar, any of you who know the Film Club, was that you who mentioned that to me, Darren?
It wasn't me.
One of my students came up and said, do you know this book called The Film Club? I said, indeed, I do. I had it one time as a text for the film history class here. It's all about a man who was having problems with his son when he reached the high school years. He didn't feel he was being challenged enough. So his father allowed him to drop out of school on the condition that he watched 3 movies a week.
Cool.
The father had picked. And read a book as well to accompany that. So I'm wondering if that gentleman didn't take his inspiration from Truffaut's own real-life story. He, of course, had the luxury living in Paris of being able to frequent the Cinémathèque Française, the greatest archive of films in the world. So there he would expose himself to countless works by foreign directors, a lot of American films, along with the works of Alfred Hitchcock. That would become kind of a personal obsession with Truffaut. By the age of 16, the ripe old age of 16, he had become friends with André Bazin, the editor of Cahiers du Cinéma, who offered him the chance to start writing for his publication. Just phenomenal. Over the next few years, he became one of the leading film critics in France, although most of his reviews were of a very scathing nature. He did not like the traditional cinema that was coming out. He actually earned himself a nickname, the gravedigger of French cinema. And he was the only French critic not invited to the Cannes Film Festival in 1958.
It's messed up.
It's really messed up, but don't worry, Yesenia, because there's a real happy ending to this. Okay? So, you know, he did, I think, what any good film critic would do. I started off myself writing reviews when I was in high school, and I got to the point where I said, this isn't fair. I'm critical of other people's works when I haven't even made a film myself. So I stopped myself from reviewing films until I had actually stepped into the trenches. And Truffaut pretty much did the same thing. He said, okay, I'm going to step aside now from film critiques, and I'm going to test the waters myself and venture into filmmaking. He would make 2 short films before we would make what is his feature film debut, what we're seeing this afternoon, at the ripe old age of 27. It's from 1959, The 400 Blows. It is a semi-autobiographical tale, the perilous misadventures of a young boy growing up in Paris in the 1950s, who does not really care for school that much. I think it's a sentiment that's shared by most people when they're young. The English title is a straight translation of the French, but it misses its meaning. The French title, faire les 400 coups, to make the 400 blows, it almost sounds like it's a form of corporal punishment. It's not. It means to raise hell. Okay? And that's pretty much what this young boy is up about. He's going to be raising hell in his school and in his own life. The film stars a young actor by the name of Jean-Pierre Léaud. He is the son of a screenwriter and an actress. He would go on after this work to become one of France's most distinguished actors. In fact, this film actually anticipates the movie Boyhood, if any of you have seen it, because Francois Truffaut would make 3 sequels to The 400 Blows over a period of years, each time using the same actor, Jean-Pierre Léaud, as the main character. So it basically is, I guess, in a way, an early example of Boyhood, if you will. When this film was released, it was an immediate success, receiving international acclaim and recognition. And at the Cannes Film Festival, the same festival that had banned him as a critic only a year earlier, presented him with the Best Director Award. Happy ending, Yesenia, I promised you. At the same festival, the film itself would be nominated for the highest honor, the Palme d'Or for Best Picture. It would receive the OCIC Award from the International Catholic Organization for Cinema, for its humanistic values. And Truffaut and his co-writer Marcel Musset would also find themselves nominated for an Academy Award for Best Original Screenplay.
Wow.
How impressive for a first film at the age of 27. Yes, makes me jealous, definitely. Here are a number of filmmakers that have called 400 Blows or have listed 400 Blows among their top 10 movies. Everyone from Akira Kurosawa, Louis Buñuel, Satyajit Ray, the filmmaker from India, Jean Cocteau, the Danish director Carl Theodor Dreyer, Richard Lester, who gave us Help and A Hard Day's Night, and Norman Jewison have all placed 400 Blows on their top 10 list. And in the recent BFI poll from 2012, the critics placed 400 Blows at number 39 on their best films of all time list. The directors placed it at number 13.
Wow.
So, we're in, I think, for a bit of a treat this afternoon. I have nothing more to say now. I've got a few tidbits to give you after the screening. I'm going to power up the projector. If anybody is in need of a break, why don't we say that now? Why don't we say by 10:02 we'll start the movie. The film is only an hour and 40 minutes, so that means that we should be out by 3:30. Yeah? Sound good? Okay. Use them.
Cool.